Good morning and welcome to the Red Ned Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. My name is Jay Edgar, and I am flanked over there to the other side of the screen by the wonderful Elaine, returning after another week off. So let's make sure that we give her a nice welcome back to the party here. How was your week off?
It was not my week off. I was working.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's is what this comes to. But Kevin Castor was good enough to pop in and give us a little bit of a hand and help us out here. And they popped in for a little bit of an impromptu stream that I had on Saturday as well. So good friend of the show. Thanks to once again for him coming by and checking us out. But otherwise, how were your last couple weeks?
Exhausting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that everything for you has just changed in the last 72 hours, I would just about imagine, given your proximity to the campaign trail and everything else that goes along with it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything after, what was it, Friday or Saturday? Just like...
Well, we've got some stuff to get to today, but unfortunately it's going to be mostly the Ruth Bader Ginsburg show, which I'm pretty sure most podcasts out there have been that for the past few days. I know, like I said, we did an impromptu stream on Saturday, which was actually what I intended Ed's World to be when I started out, was to have a roundtable after a monologue. And it turned out really well. I was kind of impressed with how everything happened and the guests and everything else went along with it. I don't know if you caught any of that one or not. I know you had the little one running around this past weekend, but...
I did, yeah. No, I haven't watched it yet, but that's kind of a good thing because we're going to talk about it today. And so... Yeah. Those comments won't impact my comments at all. I won't be like repeating anything, hopefully.
Well, we've got some stuff there. We'll talk a bit about Ginsburg herself, her career, some of the things that you put out there, some of the things that I've put out there over the past week, a little bit of back and forth as to whether or not we should go through with a confirmation before the election, because I've had some thoughts on that, and I'm sure you have as well. I know we texted back and forth the day that it happened, and we're kind of talking a bit about that as well. But on other news that we'll talk about today, a letter containing a ricin was mailed to the White House. Now, it didn't get there, but it was mailed there. Another autonomous zone has cropped up in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis authorities are doing everything they can to deny that it's there. Your boy Thomas Massie put out an amendment dealing with mail-in voting for this, and it got shot down unanimously. So we'll watch a little bit of video for that and talk about that. North Korea has been laundering money through U.S. banks for a very, very, very long time, and it's actually affecting the markets out there. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there. TikTok. The saga of TikTok continues as they have now been bought by a U.S. firm. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there, and I've got a little bit of cringe for you at the end of the show because you have not seen the infamous Paul Rudd video that was circulating around earlier on in the week, and it is just about as bad as you could think that it could be.
You know, so I always feel bad when I don't like thoroughly prepare for the show, but in this case, when you surprise me with videos like this, I'm actually kind of glad for our listeners' sake that I haven't seen it yet, because I know that I cannot hide. No. Like if there are eye rolls, I'm gonna eye roll, or I'm gonna make a cringe face, or like whatever. So it's better for the reactions.
I've got a couple notables here before we start off the show today too. A couple of pictures that came up of notable friends of the show that made some submissions and offered to have them up here. The first one is a meme that I got from Moody Redhead over on Twitter. She found it in her Facebook history and decided to put it on Twitter. And I decided that, you've probably seen that because I put it in the Discord, but I decided that the world needed to see that as well. So let's have a look at the Journalist Guides to Firearms Identification. Now, everything over in the left-hand column is what a journalist would consider to be an AR-15, including a tactical Remington 870, a Daisy BB gun, a nail gun, a rocket launcher, and a Ford Pinto, ironically enough. On the right-hand column, we see the Glocks, which includes a Makarov, a cartoon pistol that says "Bang," some sort of handheld crossbow. So I have no idea what that is over there on the third one down on the
I
right.
haven't seen it.
What's that?
I haven't seen it.
Oh. And then a revolver and a flintlock pistol, all marked as a Glock. So
I always love it when they I always love it when they mark everything as a Glock, especially if it's all black.
or an AR-15 for that matter, over on the
Right,
left-hand column.
exactly.
So I thought that was kind of interesting to come out and see. Now, the other one that we had from another friend of the show, Mackenzie, posted out on Twitter. Before I put this one out there, if you've got your kids in the room or you're listening back on the audio platform and you've got your kids in the car, first off, what the hell is wrong with you? Second off, it might be time to do earmuffs right about now because, and this was my retweet of this, my comment was, in case the two wolves in a sheep metaphor didn't strike enough fear into you, because Mackenzie tweeted out on September 19th, 9 out of 10 people in a gang rape voted to be there. Welcome to democracy.
Wow. Okay.
About the darkest way that you can possibly put that metaphor, but I mean, she's technically not wrong. So I thought that was a little bit out there in case you want to do something to scare your liberal friends into abandoning their democracy views.
Somehow I don't think that's going to work.
Maybe. But that's what I had in here for the beginning today. So before we get into the topic that's pretty much going to dominate everything that we talk about today, let's be completely honest on that one. That's all we're going to talk about through all of this. Let's check in with the live chat, see what we've got going on here.
Oh, I'm teasing them. Woodchuck's here. Nephilium's here. Hi, Dean. Oh, he says it's a pointy finger. There was a pointy finger on the diagram that you missed.
Oh.
Kool-Aid Redneck says, what is the general take in this chat? I didn't really know how to answer that, so I just said hookers and blow.
Yeah. Hey, who doesn't love hookers and blow, especially in 1988 when you're taking the blow off the back of a DeLorean? No, it's generally liberty-minded for the most part. We've got all kinds of people. I've got some, I know that sometimes we've got some bears that watch, and even some former bears, some hardcore conservatives, some libertarians. Even every once in a while, you get a nice progressive liberal in the chat. So,
or a Russian bot sometimes.
And sometimes we have Hank Hill in the chat.
Sometimes, yeah.
With
Hi,
tentacles.
Harvey. Oh, that's creepy.
Harvey was a part of the roundtable that we had over this weekend too. That was interesting to see. She got there late, but she was still there, and offered a lot to the conversation.
Harvey is now typing in Hank Hill dialogue or dialect.
All right. Well, we've stalled this long enough. I think it's time for us to get into the news. Let's
tackle the beast.
It's in the air. It's in the rhetoric around us. It's everywhere. You can't miss it at this point. And that is
it's 2020.
It is 2020. I will read this from NPR to top this off. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, champion of gender equality, dies at 87 years old. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the demure firebrand who in her 80s became a legal, cultural, and feminist icon, died Friday. The Supreme Court announced her death, saying the cause was complications from metastatic cancer of the pancreas. The court, in a statement, said Ginsburg died at her home in Washington, D.C., surrounded by family. She was 87. Now, you had a really good take on this right from the beginning. Actually, I think I found out about this from your tweet, coming right off from the beginning, that, yes, she ran an excellent life. Even though I don't agree with any Supreme Court choice or any lower court choice that she put forward at all throughout her entire tenure, she still led a good life. And she was a very, very important icon for the point that we're at right now in equality. I would almost argue that she is responsible somewhat for what we see in the equality in genders in today's market. But I want to get your take off of the woman first.
I mean, I haven't watched the documentary about her. I kind of want to now, just out of curiosity. I had seen it advertised when it first came out. I think it was maybe a year ago, but I never got around to watching it. That's another movie you should probably put on your list. Ed doesn't watch movies, you guys. I don't know if you know this or not, but if you're new here, Ed does not watch movies.
I've seen
I
like
always
5 movies in my
suggest
life.
movies to him, but he does not always watch them. But now I get texts when he is watching a movie, which is funny. But anyways, I want to watch the movie just to see, because I feel like a lot of people don't know anything about her pre like 1990s. So they don't realize that for a woman of her generation, she's part of the, I guess, silent generation. So that's like pre baby boomer.
Hmm.
For her to have achieved what she achieved, being from that generation, from a generation where women stayed home, they took care of their families. If they did have a job, they worked as a secretary or a phone operator or a nurse or a teacher, these
Hmm.
kind of very traditional, female dominated roles in society. For her to ascend to the level that she ascended to and to become a Supreme Court justice and to have this long, very prestigious legal career even before that and a teaching career as well, that's just so impressive for someone of that generation to have
Hmm.
had the gumption, the gall, the audacity to just say, screw the gender norms. I'm
Yeah.
doing what I want to do. And she got passed over for clerkships. She got shoved to the back of the line quite a bit, even though she finished top of her class in law school. Um, right around the time when most Ivy League colleges still weren't admitting females, like
Hmm.
at all. And it was a big deal. So I totally respect her for that. I totally respect her for being a trailblazer in that way. But like you, I do have a lot of issues with some of the Supreme Court decisions that she made. However, you saw this.
Hmm.
I made a long tweet thread, which I can stick in the chat here shortly, about the six. There were six cases she argued before the Supreme Court before she became a justice. Like
Hmm.
they were long before she became a justice. They were in the 70s and I think even some in the early 70s. So early, late 70s, and I think one was maybe from 82 or something like that. So she argued six cases in front of them. I highlighted five, and they were the five that had, I think the one that I didn't highlight had to do with unions. And I wanted to highlight more of the ones that were dealing with gender equality. And a lot of people only know her for her stance on Roe versus Wade, but they
Yes.
don't, and that's why they hate her. They define her by that, and they define her by her anti Second Amendment stance. What they don't know is that these cases that she tried in the 70s were actually advocating in kind of a backwards way for men's equality. Women had certain privileges, and I use that term very broadly. I don't want anybody to get offended. They probably will anyway, but whatever. Women had certain privileges in society as far as the way that the government treated them. In that time period, you could file for survivor benefits through the Social Security Administration for you and your children, and both of you could get benefits from if you were a widow. But
Hmm.
if a man lost his wife and was the sole caretaker of a child, he could not get benefits. Only the child could get benefits. And there were probably many men who had been denied Social Security benefits, even though their wives had paid into them for many, many years. And she tried one case where it was on behalf of a man, a widower, who had lost his
Excuse me.
wife, and her income had been the main source of their income for, I don't know, 25 years or something like that. She'd paid into Social Security for 25 years, I think is what it said. And there are two cases that are pretty similar, so I might cross over what I'm saying. Um, she died in childbirth, so he has this newborn, and he's like, my wife is gone. She was our principal income earner, being a teacher, and so he filed for benefits for both him and his child, and his were denied, and they were only given to his I believe it was a boy, so his son. And He sued, it got passed up. She took the case, argued it before the Supreme Court, and actually won, so that men did not have to jump through these extra arbitrary hoops and then still get denied Social Security benefits that they should rightfully be entitled to. Um, and there were a couple of cases that were similar to that. There was another one where women got a special property tax credit, basically, in Florida. And I don't know if Florida still does this, but if you're a woman, you get a $500, at least at that time. And it started in 1941, I think. You got a $500 property tax credit. And if you were a man, you didn't. So one man tried to claim the credit. They wouldn't give it to him. And he basically said, this is unfair.
Mm-hmm.
And she took that case up and argued it and tried to say, well, if you're going to treat women this way, then you have to treat men the same way. And that was one of the only cases that she didn't win. She also won a couple of other cases regarding Virginia Military Institute denying dependent benefits for a female soldier that was claiming them on behalf of her husband. Her husband was her dependent in the military. So you get BAH nowadays. This is the same thing, then you got BAH. But if you were a spouse and you were a male, you didn't get it. They didn't count you, essentially. So men and women were treated differently. And she did a great job with these cases. And I think it was cases like that people did not know about, and that they were just solely judging her on what she had done as a Supreme Court justice, which by all means you should, but I think you should also take into account the whole career,
Mm-hmm.
just the body of work as a whole, and her decisions and her arguments pre-Supreme Court, I would say, were more often and more likely to be on the side of civil liberties, especially and the ones that I just outlined were for men.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Britt had a really, really good take this weekend. And, well, first off, she wasn't drunk or stoned on the stream, which I don't know if I've ever seen her in that condition. But she had a really good take while we were having this conversation. And she pointed out the fact that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was an extremist and a radical in a time where we actually needed a radical in this country. And unfortunately, the thing with radicals is once they get their radical agenda pushed through, they kind of fall to the side, or they have to get more radical to stay relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think we saw a lot of that moving. I mean, we see a lot of that now with just general society, but I do think that we saw some of that with Ginsburg. And
I think so too.
Yeah, in her Supreme Court career, her decisions and everything else that she did.
Yeah, and I had some libertarians get mad at me and say, like, oh, you're basically condoning that Social Security Administration exists and da 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 da. And you know what? That's fine. I don't care. Should it exist? No. But it does exist, and I tend to deal more in reality. So the reality of the situation is the government has a program, and we are all opted into it whether or not we like it. So until that changes, the only thing you can hope for is to be treated equally. And she made sure that happened. So I totally give her props for that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, I'd be thrilled if tomorrow they said, hey, by the way, you're going to be able to opt out of it. I'd be one of the first people to opt out of it. I don't want to pay into it because I know I'm not getting it back.
Right.
It's just a trust fund that the government borrows from and then never replenishes. So eventually you're going to run out of money. But like I said, I try to deal in reality. So the reality of the situation is the best scenario in that case is that you're treated equally by the government as the provisions in the Constitution outline.
Well, yeah, and that's basic equal protection under the law.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And once again, you're right. If it's there, then we should all get a hand in it, even though you and I are never going to see our Social Security payments ever in our lives.
Yeah, because most people pay into it. So if you've paid into it, you should get the money back. So if this man's wife had paid into it, then why shouldn't he get the money back? Especially since, being a single parent in those days was definitely not easy.
Mm-hmm. Especially a dude being a single parent in those days. I mean, I see a lot more balance now between parents and being able to parent than I think anything. And of course, I wasn't alive in the 50s and the 60s, but from what we've seen from leftover pieces of society, Americana that's left over and whatnot, I mean, a single father was going to have a real hard time in the 60s regardless of everything else.
Well, and that's why men in those days got remarried so quickly.
Hmm.
Like within a year, they would be remarried because, like, you being a single parent as a man in that time period was seen as like you must be defective or like there must be something wrong with you. I think the only positive single father uh, role that I have seen depicted in Hollywood from that time period is Andy Griffith. I can't think of any others.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
And
So,
even him, and even he had, um, was it his mother that lived with them?
mhm.
Who was the older lady in that show? Yeah, so even he had help from a female, role model in young Opie's life. So it was just unheard of for a man to raise a child on his own with no female, with no nanny, with no grandparent, with no nothing. So men would get remarried in like 8 months.
well, we've got some a little bit of reaction that came off of this. I want to wait and talk about the mainstream reaction to this when we start talking about the news and everybody in the news that decided it was time to do whatever it is that they do. But before we get into the potential replacements, both of the mainline presidential candidates weighed in, and I do want to hear what happened on the Jorgensen camp as well for this.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got video for what Trump had to say, which weirdly had Tiny Dancer playing in the background, and then I've
So
got Joe
wild.
Biden's tweet to go with this, and an article talking about his initial reaction, which was, of course, was a simple prepared statement and no questions, please. So let's hear what the Donald had to say about this. Let's get that queued up here.
Yeah. She just died? Wow. I didn't know that. You're telling me now for the first time. She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life. I'm actually sad to hear that. I am sad to hear that. Thank you very much.
Which I'm sure for, I mean, most anything else off of this, that was a class act
He's
response.
human. I just put it in the chat. I was like, y'all, he is human. Because that was that was such a good reaction. It's if that was the Donald Trump that we got like even 75% of the time, I'd be like, all right, he's not that bad. But he's a total dick most of the time. Like if
Yeah.
he this was him acting human, and I think that's great. Like I don't have any problem with it. I thought it was a great reaction. It was
Well,
very genuine.
well, Biden himself had a different response to this. CNN reports, and I tried to put the video up on the Clips channel, and it got taken down. So unfortunately, we're not going to have video to go along with this part. But Democratic presidential nominee and former Vice President Joe Biden mourned the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on Friday, and demanded that voters dictate the next president before before her replacement is chosen. Tonight and in the coming days, we should focus on the loss of the justice and her enduring legacy, Biden told reporters Friday night after returning to Delaware from a campaign event. But there is doubt, let me be clear, that the voters should pick the president and the president should pick the justice for the Senate to consider. So, I mean, right now on first opening
What kind of
statement,
accent was that, by the way?
I don't know where Biden's accent comes from. It's like a mismatch.
Delaware.
It's a mishmash of Southern accent and Northeast accent.
Because it's Delaware.
Yeah.
That's funny. Anyways, go on.
Well, I mean, the president. I mean, he was off the cuff though too. Like, they had the camera pointed at him as soon as they were telling him, and for him to
They
be
were
able,
hoping to catch him,
yeah,
is what they were hoping. They were hoping that he would say something nasty and that they could be like, oh, her body's not even cold yet and you're already being a jerk.
whereas Biden immediately turned it into turned it into a campaign ad essentially. Well,
Yeah,
now vote for
absolutely.
me so I can pick your next Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising because I've also read a report this morning. I think I have it in here actually. Yeah. CNBC reported, and I read it this morning, that apparently Ginsburg's dying wish, and she said it to her daughter, Clara Spera, was that the next president be the person that replaced her. Which is also...
that's all well and good, but one, it's not substantiated, so it could just be her daughter making it up, which would be terrible. Like, I really, really hope that that's not the case. But in this kind of hyper-partisan atmosphere that we're in these days, I kind of wouldn't put that past anybody. Also, dying wishes are great and all, but they're not legally binding, and they have nothing to do with the Constitution. So,
yeah,
they don't really count for anything.
Well, yeah, and we'll talk just a bit about that when we talk about where this goes next. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a politicized climate, and it seems that the left side of the aisle has been trying to run this as politicized as they can. Because Schumer took this tweet and ran, Harris took this tweet and ran, and by the way, I have your tweet to put up on the screen when we talk about Harris and what happens next off of this. So that'll be coming up here in just a bit. Right. Biden actually ran out and tweeted about this as well. Let me find that one. Biden, after making these prepared remarks and not taking questions, also tweeted out, "Let me be clear," which, yes, Joe Biden, please be clear, because you haven't been able to do that on the campaign trail yet, but that's another story for another day. "The voters should pick a president, and that president should select a successor to Justice Ginsburg."
This is not what they said in 2016.
No, and we'll be talking about that in just a bit here. I wanted to take some time, and because you're actually working in a campaign, and I know that when we were texting back and forth, you had said that you need to get out there and make sure that Dr. Jorgensen can weigh in on this right away as well. So what have you seen inside the camp from the libertarian side of things?
Can I be honest? I ask that knowing that the answer is yes.
Yes.
Libertarians are a bunch of dicks. Just saying. They are. Because her statement was very non-political, was, very much like Donald Trump's, like, my heart goes out to her family and da-da-da. And if you've been paying attention to her campaign at all, you know that 2 weeks ago her mother passed away. So she's very intimately familiar with, that process of grieving, and that's very fresh for her. So her mother's memorial service was just this last Monday. So her just expressing, genuine condolences to the family was normal and expected, among everybody who know her and are working in the campaign with her. And there were some libertarians that screenshotted it and posted it on Facebook and were like, "This is why I'm not joining the LP." And it's like, really? So yeah, I had thoughts about that. I was like, if you have an issue with someone being empathetic, knowing or being able to easily find out that just 2 weeks ago this person lost their mother, then you probably were never joining the Libertarian Party anyway. You're just looking for an excuse to be mad, and go be mad somewhere else and go be a jerk to someone else, because this is not the time or place for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it goes right along with the internet meme of people going out there and saying, well, this is a problem, this is a problem, and this is a problem, and then somebody else offering, here's a solution. Here's a solution. And the person on the next cell says, I don't want a solution. I just want to be mad.
Right. And so it's really a no-win situation no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. Because Joe is not in a position right now to nominate a Supreme Court justice because she's not elected. Mm-hmm. So her options are one of two things. One, express genuine empathy for someone's family after they've passed. And two, make it political. So if you make it political, you have no empathy, you're a soulless libertarian, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you show empathy and, oh, well, this is why I'm not joining the party, because you guys are all you're just too soft. What, did you want us to just publish the list of Supreme Court justices she would have nominated? That would have been a dick move. That wouldn't have gone over well. And we were never going to do that. So she was never going to do that. So it's a lose-lose situation. You can't make everybody happy, but reacting in that way to it was really disappointing for me. For me to see the other libertarians acting that way, I was so disappointed and so irritated.
Well, you're probably in the same camp as what I was seeing when I saw the 50-50 even split over the Rittenhouse case.
Yeah.
where everybody, well, well, let me see if I can rephrase that in a way that makes sense. Half of Liberty Twitter is pissed off and wants Rittenhouse to be crucified because he wanted to be a cop when he grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And the other half is genuinely excited about the fact that somebody stood up and defended himself. So.
Yeah. Libertarians never agree on anything ever, not even 50-50. So I think I made a comment this morning in one of my group chats that's for work about someone that was upset in a Facebook group. And I was just like, libertarians' worst enemies are other libertarians. And like we just like create these boogeymen on purpose, and it's needless. It's literally pointless.
It is. With that being said, are there any people that are being considered at this point?
Yes, there will be a list published,
Okay.
probably later this week. I know Donald Trump is planning on making his announcement Friday, so we'll probably do it before then, Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. But yeah, I mean, Joe is putting thought into it, and she's going to come up with some good choices, and they're obviously going to be constitutionalists and traditionalists in that way, where they want to interpret the Constitution as close to the written word as humanly possible.
And with that being in, that comes into the next topic that we actually have here, almost perfectly aligned in all this. So there are some names that are being considered on this, and I kind of want to get your idea on what strategy should be if you were the one making the decision on who to nominate off this. Of course, nothing has come out from the Biden camp, which means that nothing has come out from Kamala Harris as to who would be the nominee. We really don't know that, and I mean, I had to, with everything else that went on this week, or this weekend, I should say, I had to completely skip the Harris-Biden gaffe that happened this past week, and I was so looking forward to that when that happened on Tuesday, talking about that, but unfortunately, that one had to get bumped.
Okay.
But Trump has already had a list out, and he just very recently added 3 names to that, including Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Josh Hawley, and Senator Tom Cotton. That all came out last week.
I don't like any of those.
Yeah, I think I'd be the most comfortable with Cruz out of the 3, but Hawley doesn't want it, and he's way too new to be doing this, and Cotton is on the other side of it, way too fucking eager for this. Way too eager for this.
Yeah. Okay, so can I say who I'm disappointed is not on his list? Trey Gowdy. I love Trey Gowdy.
Yeah.
I know he's a prosecutor, former prosecutor, so he kind of comes from that same school of thought as Kamala Harris, a little bit, but he's a bulldog, and I feel like, way more of a constitutionalist than he was able or comfortable being as an elected representative, because he had to toe the party line. I think if he was the judge, that he would have been able to be more so a constitutionalist, and I think he would have been a good pick.
Yeah, I can see that, actually. 2 of the names that are on top of the list, and Trump actually came out, Politico reported this morning, we're going to fill the seat. Supreme Court vacancy provides Trump a new rallying cry, which means that he's got a new 3-syllable chant that his sycophantic followers can just repeat over and over again at their rallies.
They love those. They're so good at them.
A day after Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, President Trump relished the opportunity to promise his supporters that he would fill the vacant Supreme Court seat, a move designed to energize his voters just weeks before the election.
This was a gift wrapped in a shiny red bow for him.
Coming into this, as soon as I heard it, I thought this was a gift wrapped in a red bow to both sides. But, I mean, this is moving more and more towards Trump's favor coming off of this.
Yeah, it is. It's not a gift to Democrats. Not even a little bit.
So I will quote the Orange Man. So, Article 2 of our Constitution says the president shall nominate justices of the Supreme Court, he said. I don't think it can be any more clear. I don't think so. I don't think so. Fill that seat, the crowd chanted, over and over and over again.
Of course.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to fill the seat, he responded to cheers. The conversation later went on, in which Trump said that he will fill the seat with a woman and that he likes women much more than men most of the time. Both quotes coming from the same speech. This was at a campaign rally in Fayetteville for him. So that puts two people up on the top.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Amy Coney Barrett, who was discussed numerous times during the Kavanaugh hearings, and Barbara Lagoa, who I've actually never heard of, but most of my guests were very quick to suggest when we were having the roundtable on Saturday. So what are your take on, obviously you said you hadn't heard of Barbara Lagoa, but what's your take on Barrett? Because I know that when you and I were texting, when we found out about this, we kind of both agreed that somebody's probably already called her at this point.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think that she either expected a call or she got a call. And at first I thought, well, that's not a bad pick. But then I started reading articles and I was like, oh, no, this could be really badly, like real bad. She's Catholic, which on the surface I have no issues with at all. But I think that she has a tendency, I think, to, she would have a tendency to be an activist judge in the opposite way that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was. So rather than being a progressive activist judge, she would be an ultra conservative activist judge, which that can be equally damaging.
Oh, yeah.
So too far one way or the other can be equally damaging. But I think it's an expected reaction because RBG was the pendulum swinging one way, and now there's this opportunity to push it back the other way. And I think Trump's going to take it. And I think he'd kind of be dumb not to take it because that's what his base wants. So, but he's also going into his second term. So second term presidents, it's like the gloves are off. You know, they're not going to play nice anymore because they're not worried about reelection. So he could nominate her if he wants to go all in. Or if Lagoa is more conservative moderate, then he might pick her to kind of soften the blow to some more moderates. Or if people really are that concerned about someone who's going to, I don't know, rule from the bench as a person of X faith before they are a person of constitutional authority.
Well, and some of the other sides of this, and I mean, some of this doesn't go into judge strategy, which I don't like, because I would rather the qualifications be the top of the ticket rather than whether or not this person is quote unquote bulletproof. But both of these women do have a certain set of certain level of bulletproofness about them coming into this race. Coney Barrett, while yes, being a very, very devout Catholic white woman, has adopted 2 Haitian children. So it would be really hard to throw rape accusations against her. It'd be really hard to throw sexism accusations against her, and it would be really hard to throw racism accusations against her.
Yeah, you can't throw xenophobic accusations at her. I mean,
well, they're still going to do it, but
maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the left reactions to finding out that Matt Gaetz had adopted a Cuban boy to kind of really see how that might play over. I feel like
they went full Freudian on that.
Yeah, they did. But that wasn't necessarily people that were holding office. That was more the base. The base went nuts over that. But I think people that were in elected office had more sense. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they're all colleagues. They all have to sit in the same chamber. They all have to work together. They all have to sit on committees together. So they do have to have a certain amount of camaraderie. And that is evident as with RBG's relationship with Scalia. They had a wonderful friendship for many, many years. They were very close friends, and they were from completely opposite ends of the political spectrum. So that's, I mean, and we've seen that before. I mean, we see photos of group events like state funerals or state dinners, or I don't know, I can't think of anything else right now, but where it's like Obama and Bush and Trump and Clinton, and they're all there together and they're all in a little group and they're all talking, and it's like, you know, it kind of really calls into question, do these people really hate each other as much as they want us to believe they hate each other? Or is all of that, you know, political theater? I'm inclined to think that that's all political theater, and that they're all just like oh yeah, haha, yeah, I got you today on TV. And the other one's like, haha, yeah, but I'll get you next week when I'm on Fox News. Uh, it's kind of a tit for tat thing. So I don't really take any of that very seriously.
Well, and I don't know if you're familiar with the R-rated conservative who broadcasts on the Freedom Scoop network, but if you are looking for one, grab your podcatcher and look up Stephen Ignoramus's series called Me Ignorant, because he actually sat down with the R-rated conservative and they did an entire episode talking about the RRC's wrestling theory, in which a lot of the
Okay.
politics in the blood sports is like the WWE. Because I mean, you see the hatred for the wrestlers have for each other on the stage,
Hmm.
and then you go into the locker room and they're talking to each other like normal. They're slapping each other on the ass and with the towels,
Right.
and they're going off for a drink afterwards. And I think that we see a lot of that with the commercials and the base and everything else that goes along with the elected politicians.
Hmm.
They're completely assholes to each other on TV, in the chamber and everything else, and then they all go down to the same bar and drink together.
Right. And I've said this before, and I'll reiterate it again because I don't think I've said it on the podcast before, but the left is freaking out. The base is freaking out because they think that this new justice is going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And
Oh yeah, that's a scare tactic that's
they're
been
just
going on for.
terrified. And if Republicans were really serious about that, they would have done it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It would already be done. It would not be an issue because if you really care about something, and they've had the House and Senate majority how many times in the last 25, 30 years? They absolutely
Six.
could have gotten this done. Yeah, they could have gotten this done 6 times over, and they haven't. Why? Because then they can't scare you with it when they want you to vote for them. And the left does the same damn thing. They do it with abortion and they do it with immigration. They do it with all kinds of things. Healthcare. It's so back and forth with all of them. So they're not invested in fixing it. Just like the right is not invested in fixing immigration, making any kind of legitimate changes to the immigration policy. Because we have so many illegal immigrant workers on farms and they get to go in and make a big show of raiding the farms and deporting people and rah, 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 like, oh, we're going to get all the people that are here illegally out. And then 2 weeks later, these people, the same people, are back at a different plant just up the road working. How do you explain that?
So some of them do leave the country.
Yeah, they leave the country for a couple of days and they come back. They take a little vacation.
So I want to actually, we're moving right into where we need to be on whether or not this should happen before the election. That's going to be a heavy topic by itself. So you want to check in with the live chat, see what they're doing here before we get into that, because that's going to be a long one. This and the mainstream reaction, what I got a couple of videos on, are going to be long ones. So let's see what these guys are doing over here. Let's make sure they're not killing each other.
Trains is very supportive of Gowdy. Yes. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks he would be great. Harvey says she's gunning for Cruz, even though she knows it'll be a woman. Ron says Judge Knapp. I would love Judge Knapp too. And I can't say for certain, but I think he might be on our short list for Joe. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. We'll find out later this week. So what else? Harvey said, did you see the video of the girl screaming that RGB should have held out until 2021, like it was her fault that she died?
I have that video on the stack.
That was scary.
I have that one on there.
Oregano also agrees with Gowdy. I'm so glad that you guys agree with me.
Do you know anything about California trying to repeal the 209 Act? Because
I don't
Kool-Aid
even-
Act asked about that, and I don't have anything on that.
Which one is that?
I will.
Is that the...
I'm going to notate that for next week's show because, I mean, we've got the request for it, so.
I'm going to Google it real quick.
Okay. Because I know nothing about it. Unless it's the Civil Rights Act. That's the only thing I can think of that they're trying to repeal right now.
It is. Yeah, it's the Civil Rights Initiative.
That's some.
Amended the state constitution to prohibit state government institutions from considering race, sex, or ethnicity, specifically in the areas of public employment. So it's affirmative action?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. And they're talking about what, repealing it? Is that
Yeah,
what
they've
he
been
said?
working on repealing it for a while.
Interesting. I was going to guess that it was the I can't remember if it was an executive order or if it was a bill that Governor Newsom signed, very dramatic, like in the burning forest, and it was so that felons could become firefighters after they got out of prison. So it was an occupational licensing law change, and I was 100% in favor.
Yeah,
I never thought I would agree with him on anything, but that was a good move.
Yeah, every once in a while, Garcetti and Newsom both get some wood on the wall, but it's few and far between.
Yeah. Ivanka Trump, ironically enough, I've agreed with her on some occupational licensing issues too. But yeah, that's needed to happen for decades.
That's a baseball reference, and I miss baseball. I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's a flag missing behind me.
Your Boston Red Sox flag. Where did it go?
It's crumpled up in the corner over there because I got so mad at MLB, and I'm not mad at the Red Sox themselves, but I got so mad at Major League Baseball last week when they decided that they were going to put a cutout of the Parkland kid to raise awareness for gun violence in the stands as a fake fan. I said, you know what? The MLB doesn't need my support anymore.
Okay, let's get back on track.
All right. So I'm going to ask you the question here. I've actually changed my mind on this over the past couple days, but I want to get your take on this. Do you think that President Trump should appoint and get a vote through on a Supreme Court justice before Election Day?
Yes. It's his job.
Okay. Go ahead and defend your position on that. We're in the same camp at this point, but...
I mean, so especially knowing that this is likely to be a very highly contested election that might go to the Supreme Court, I think it is important that there are 9 justices. Otherwise you have the possibility of having a hung court, and then it goes to what, House of Representatives?
I think so, yeah.
Right, which would mean Nancy Pelosi
No, it goes to the House of
end.
Representatives first.
Oh, does it? Okay, yeah.
And then the Supreme Court, and then state delegation.
Oh boy, this could be a mess. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to have an odd number on the court in an election year like this. Especially because we might see lawsuits like we saw in the Gore-Bush election where, we're talking about today's version of hanging chads, which are mail-in ballots. So I just think that that's kind of the built-in safety measure to have 9 instead of 8. And also it is his job. So
yeah,
do your job. Like, I get it. The only comment I really made that night was I was irritated with people for immediately turning political.
Yeah.
And not even attempting to be decent human beings about the whole thing. It was just immediately like the Trump camp wanted to rub it in everybody's faces, like, we're getting another justice. And the left was like screaming like that girl in the video, and just, it's just so unfortunate that people can't act like humans. We are all humans.
And I have, like I said, I changed my mind on this over the past couple of days because when I was sitting in the round table talking with everybody, we were actually all unanimous with the idea that it should wait until after the election. And since I turned the camera off to now, I've been thinking about this over and over, and no, I don't think you should. For one simple and a completely different reason than you brought out here, I don't want this to be a single issue election. Because like it or not, and I do think this is part of the reason that Gary Johnson didn't do as well as I think he could have, given the toxic nature of both mainline candidates at the time. But 2016 really was a single issue election. Who is going to get to replace the late Antonin Scalia? Because it's Merrick Garland's turn or something or other.
Right.
And I want to hear how, even if they're lying out of their teeth, I want to hear how they plan to end the wars in the Middle East, how they plan to rebuild the economy, how they plan to bring jobs back to the U.S. I want those issues to be on the ballot, not what one unelected justice is going to be sitting on the court.
I'm interested to see if there are any polls that come out this week that are, or maybe next week or the week after, that are conducted this week, right after her death, before there's an official announcement of a nomination. And then I'm interested to see what the polls do after there's an announcement of the nomination, because I have a feeling that it's going to help Trump and hurt Biden overall. But I think the left is going to become more and more the squeaky wheel that wants the grease kind of a
Right.
thing. Like there's going to be more screaming from the left.
Well, and we're also looking at the idea right now, too, of even if it comes down to a vote, that actually might not confirm anything either. Because Murkowski and Collins have already said abso-fucking-lutely not. They're not going to confirm anybody until after Election Day.
Right. But the thing is that we may not have a decision until December if it's a contested election, because the mail-in ballots, I think the rule is they have to be postmarked by the date of the election, which means you have to allow a couple of weeks to get all the ballots in, and then you have to allow them to be counted. So how long are we talking about? We may not know until late November, early December who actually won the election.
I don't think we're going to know until after Inauguration Day. I'm not going to lie to you about that. There's no way. They were still counting ballots in Milwaukee 2 months later for the primary. There's no fucking way.
Well, we're all in this boat together, so I guess we're just going to find out.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
Can we talk about Kamala Harris now?
Oh, you want to talk about Kamala Harris?
I do want to talk about Kamala Harris.
So you actually, let me get the picture up here for this. You tweeted out, and I said that I was going to notate that you did that, and I notated it so hard it's about to show up on the screen here. You notated, pointed out that Harris will have to leave the campaign trail to fulfill her duties on the Judiciary Committee to vet the SCOTUS nominee. How much do you want to bet she takes things too far while she attempts to campaign during the hearings? It's going to be a show for sure. So now you have more than 280 characters. Tell us a little bit more about what you think about that.
This is going to be the bar hearings on meth. Like, it's going to be so bad. The Democrats are going to go nuts. They're not going to hold back on a woman. They're going to do everything they can to basically use it as campaign fodder, because all of them are up for election, or a lot of them are up for election.
I was going to say that they don't do the Supreme Court in the House. They do that in the Senate. So no, they're not all up for election.
Some of them are, aren't they?
Yeah, some of the senators are.
Okay. So the ones that are up for re-election are going to go hard or go home. And they're going to go hard, and they're going to be led by Kamala Harris because she's the VP nominee and the presumptive president, because we all know how that's going to work. And Biden's not actually going to serve a full term as president. Like, there's no way. It'll be Harris. It will. So basically, she's the expected president sometime within the next 3 years if Biden wins. So they're going to take her lead, which means if she goes hard, which she will, because she always goes too hard and she always takes it way too far and she always does a terrible job at it. And it makes her so unlikable. I do not think she realizes how unlikable it makes her. But they're all going to follow suit, and it's going to backfire and blow up in their faces. But it's going to be the bar hearing on meth.
Or the Kavanaugh hearing, even better.
Oh, God. It's going to be both.
Did you know anybody at this law firm? Because this law firm is the one that President Trump it's next door to the one that President Trump uses for his personal law firm, and you might be trying to do some favors for President Trump. So who did you know at this law firm? Can I is there anybody specific you're talking to? Who'd you talk to?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm picturing more of that.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a shit show, completely. And whoever's nominated, it's probably going to be Barrett. She's just going to be sitting there like, "Are we done yet? Like, this is ridiculous."
I don't know why my Kamala Harris impression sounds like Myrtle Urkel, but it's hilarious.
Oh, that was supposed to be Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
It didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, I can't get her screechy voice down, so I just do the Myrtle Urkel thing.
That's funny.
So, yeah, and it's like you said, it's not just going to be her. This is going to be all over the place, because this is going to pull a lot of people off the campaign trail that are up for re-election this year.
Also, it's going to make Biden have to go back on the campaign trail. Because if she's not campaigning, he's going to have to go back on the trail, or he's going to have to go back in the basement.
Yes, please put him back out there. Let him say stupid shit. He says a lot of stupid shit, and I enjoy it.
That sounded like Donald Trump for a second.
Maybe I'm channeling the Donald.
Maybe.
Do you want to ghostwrite a book for me so I can make millions off of it?
No. I don't have time.
No, and he is going to get out there and he's going to say stupid shit. But But you're like you said, you're absolutely right. This needs to happen throughout this year. And I believe the record for getting a Supreme Court nominee through the Senate and confirmed is 19 days.
Wow, who was that?
I don't remember, but I remember seeing that the record was 19 days from nomination to sitting on the bench.
Interesting.
And I pointed out this morning, and this goes along with the idea of the people that are saying that, well, you must wait. You have to wait until after the election to do this. These same people would be up there. I mean, if Hillary Clinton had a Chuck Schumer-controlled Senate right now, and this happened, first off, Ginsburg would have retired 3 years ago. But regardless, if this was Hillary's White House with Schumer's Senate, I think we'd set a new record. I'm guessing from nomination to sitting on the bench would be probably about 5 days.
I don't know. Do you think they could get it done procedurally in 5 days? I don't know that they could.
I don't think they'd care about procedure.
I don't know.
I don't think they give a damn about that. They just want the power. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of about this is just the power. Now, McConnell came out and he gave some long-winded speech in his little turtle voice about, well, we've got procedures and we've never seen a president nominate a Supreme Court justice that wasn't confirmed by a Senate, even in an election year. When he's got the same party Senate, we've never seen that before, which is bullshit. They're going to come out and call McConnell a hypocrite off of this.
But also, they have the power to change their procedures.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Congress has the ability to make their own rules. That's in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And they use and abuse that privilege every election cycle, every session of Congress. They use and abuse it. Mm-hmm. So if they wanted to change the procedure, they could.
Yeah. Well, the thing with McConnell, too, is it's just... He had to make this long-winded speech trying to justify the difference between his opinion now and his opinion back in 2016, when in reality, he could have done it in 4 words. Is it 5? No, 5 words. He could have justified it in 5 words. I just want to win.
Yeah. I just want a red victory.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all they want. And that's, like I said, it would have been the exact same way if this would have been a mandate for Hillary.
We've already seen that.
Yeah.
We've already seen that. That happened in 2016. So we already know what the Democrats would have done, which is exactly what the Republicans would have done, which just backs up the whole libertarian argument that it's just 2 wings of the exact same bird. Oh, yeah. They're not any different than each other.
So yeah, you're absolutely right on this one here. I want to go over, because it's been requested in the chat already of this one, what the mainstream reaction to all of this is, and I've got a couple of videos to start off with. So before we get into any politicians doing anything, let's hear what some random blonde woman who was just driving along had to say about this.
Holy fucking shit, you guys! I'm driving your car, but I just got a notification that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died! Fuck! Could this year get any fucking worse? Ruth, you just had to make it to 2021! Ah! Holy fucking shit, you guys!
So, can somebody go and revoke that woman's driver's license?
someone needs to go call their therapist, like yesterday, and calm down. She was 87. She had cancer. Like, calm your tits.
Now I'm going to see if this one will load, because I had to take it from a longer video and it seems to get past a certain point, and if I try to play it after that point, it doesn't load. But I think I've got this one set up at this point. But I thought that you'd like this one a little bit more, because this goes on the idea of the duopoly and what's happening from this. So let's hear what this woman had to say after we get Dinesh D'Souza off the screen, because the original source for this video was deleted. So Matt Christensen was kind enough to lend me a video that pretty much came from the end of Dinesh D'Souza conversation on the topic. Let's hear what this woman had to say.
Listen, kiddo, I get it. I don't like the two-party system. I think our country's corrupt, and quite frankly, I don't want to vote for Biden. It feels like voting for a Republican. But I'm gonna do it! You wanna know why? Because the alternative is a fucking fascist! A fascist is a fascist! Maybe we can have the conversation about dismantling the two-party system when a fascist isn't running! Maybe we can do that later, kiddo! Champ! Chief! Maybe we can talk about it later!
Wow. Someone also needs to call their therapist. Train says, let's guess her profession. I'm saying teacher. I was actually going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I could guess that. And then the second one, I would say probably the librarian in the same fucking school.
No, I think the second one's a teacher.
Oh.
The first one is probably, God, I don't know, a barista or a marketing person. Nothing against marketing people. I love my marketing director that works with me. She's the best.
And you're about to be on a marketing person's show coming up this week too, by the way, if you want to throw a little self-promo out there.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to sit down with Brian Nichols on his show on Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday afternoon. Actually, I don't know if we're doing live or if we're taping.
I think with Brian you're taping, but those of you over on this channel, watch the audio platform, because I have the exclusive on the audio for that, and we'll be putting that up on the bonus content. So go ahead and watch for that. I already worked that out with him, so you don't need to do any extra steps.
I love that you anticipate. You're just like, she doesn't have her shit together. I'm just going to do it for her. I love it. That's our relationship. That's how it works.
So that is, those were the two viral ones that went around this week. It was these two women coming out and screaming, but the mainstreams really didn't do a whole lot better. AOC had a almost 40-minute Instagram live feed.
No thanks. Not gonna. TLDR. Too long, didn't read.
Where she is coming out and saying that we need to radicalize about this point. Various other politicians were coming out saying that if we don't get our way, we're going to burn the whole system down. If he tries to ram through a nominee, we're going to burn the whole system down, was one of them. That was from a CNN, I believe a CNN anchor too. I didn't pull that one up for the tweet. I do have another tweet up here. Let me get that picture. Yes, this one. Dr. Dina Grayson tweets out, an impeached president should not pick our next Supreme Court justice. Pass it on.
That's kind of a good point.
Somebody, and bless his heart for trying, but somebody actually tried to bring this up on the opposition, saying, should Clinton have been able to nominate Ruth Bader Ginsburg? To which I had to kind of remind him that, Clinton wasn't impeached until 7 years after he nominated Ruth Bader Ginsburg, so...
Oh, okay. I was way too young to remember that.
Yeah, that was in 1993. He was impeached in 2000.
Wow.
During an election year. Nancy Pelosi has floated the idea of if Trump nominates somebody, then they're going to impeach either him again or Barr to try and prevent the confirmation vote from going through, because the Senate will be wrapped up in the impeachment and won't be able to come through with the...
So basically they're just like, we're just going to invent shit, and you're just going to have to deal with it.
That's basically what it's coming down to off at this point.
This is the most toxic work environment I can imagine is working in Congress or the Senate. It's insane. This is why good people don't stay. This is why Trey Gowdy didn't stay. He specifically said that. It's why Justin Amash didn't stay. It's why you get a lot of guys like that that are really good people. They do not stay.
Well, I know when I read Dr. Grayson's tweet, the first thing that I put back is, okay, well, show me in the Constitution where it says that, and we'll have the conversation about it. I'm willing to hear you out.
Yeah.
Just show me where it says it. And we'll have that conversation. We'll talk about it. Because that's how we get stuff done, is we talk about it. But
yeah, I kind of wish that we had the European version of like a vote of no confidence, because it's not the same as impeachment. It's just, we don't trust you to do your job. And those carry a lot of weight in England and other countries that have that process.
yeah, but if we had that, we wouldn't have a federal government.
Probably not.
Just by the definition of that, we wouldn't have a federal government.
Oh yeah, because the approval rating of Congress is like what, 12% or 10% or something like that?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's not crazy. I mean, I believe it because I don't approve.
So, and the riots, apparently if they try to push somebody through, the riots are going to come back. That is a losing issue for the left right now. I mean, it's something I want to see. I want to see them lose. At this point, I kind of just want to see. I want to vote for Trump just so I can see everybody on the right at this point, to get every progressive out of Congress, so they can be tried for sedition. And I don't want him to be president, and I still want to see all of them out of Congress so they can be tried for sedition. Because
you know that's not going to happen.
I know. I want it to happen.
That's a pipe dream. I know. It's a good daydream. It's a real good dream. You can dream stuff, but it's not likely.
I think I have more of a chance than that, than the ANCOM utopia that baristas at Starbucks dream about.
Probably.
So, what is your thought?
Actually, no. I don't think you do, because we've had multiple autonomous zones pop up this year.
What's your take on the fact that they're planning on going out and rioting if we get to push through like this?
They're already protesting. They protested outside Lindsey Graham's house today with like megaphones at like 4:30 a.m. because it was meant to be like an alarm clock, and I thought that was hilarious.
Did he have to climb off of some guy in order to go out and address them?
Ooh, bad take.
You know it's
I don't
true.
care. I don't care, but that's the thing. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
Besides, he'd be the receiver anyway. I mean, regardless, though, they're out. They went to McConnell's house to do the same thing, which they just got out from in front of McConnell's house because there was no stimulus and no $600, no peace, and they were chanting that, which is kind of clunky to chant, but they just got done doing that with McConnell, and now they're doing it again because they don't want to see. They don't want to see any of this go through. They're trying. This is terrorism.
Yeah, it is. You know what sucks about this? So I'm helping plan the election night party. We had to rule out cities because we were like, yeah, there's a potential for riots there. We can't have an event there the night of the election because it'll be bad. And that's such like a first world problem, but it's really driving home that there will be certain cities in the United States that become no-go zones for people who are third-party supporters or Republicans in a blue city or Democrats in a red city. Those cities are going to become so exclusive to their base that you're not even going to feel safe living there, visiting there, or hosting events there. And it's just going to make everything more partisan.
Oh yeah, there are people out there. Blonde in the Belly of the Beast likes to point it out, but she's a virulent racist and admits it. But one of the only ways that they think that they can do anything for the country is overt balkanization, and I see it happening on its own.
Yeah, I do too.
So,
People will leave where they're not wanted if you make them uncomfortable enough. And the right and the left both do it.
I mean, that's fair. I stopped working in Madison, and I had the opportunity to actually go live in Dane County again last year because it would have been closer to work at the time. And I said, no, absolutely not. There's no place for me in Dane County, Wisconsin, or Madison, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
They will run me out of town as soon as they find out anything about the way that I look at politics in the world.
Yeah, I don't know anything about. I mean, I know about Madison kind of in a general way, but I don't know what it's like to live there or anything like that.
Well, it's a beautiful city. It's probably one of the most beautiful cities in Wisconsin, and it is 100% progressive to ANCOM.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, that's all that I have on this Ginsburg stuff at this point. I mean, we made record time at an hour and 11 on one topic.
Woo! But it was like there were subtopics. Okay, let's give ourselves some credit here.
Did you have anything else to add before we went on to anything else on the list here?
No, I am all talked out about it. For now.
There's definitely going to be more to talk about coming off of this one here. So I want to talk, and we're actually probably going to swing back into the Ginsburg topic on this next one here, but I want to talk about some of the other things that happen around the country. And one of the things that we saw, reading from the Associated Press, envelope addressed to White House contained ricin, and that was confirmed at this point that there were ground up castor beans in the envelope. So, according to the article, and I read this a little bit more in depth this morning, a letter appeared to have originated in Canada, according to a statement from the RCMP, which said it was assisting the FBI. So it came out of, I believe it was Quebec, headed for the White House. It got intercepted by a government agency because they detected that it had ricin in it, and they opened it up and they found these castor beans, which, I mean, ricin is some nasty stuff because there's so many different ways that they can use it. It can be an ingestible poison. Having the powder in there can get enough powder in the air to kill you. It is a nasty thing. But my first thought about this is, did you actually expect a letter filled with ricin to get to the White House?
I mean, yeah, because we've had that before, right? That's happened before.
The anthrax scare, but that was still something. They caught that. No mail, nothing that goes to the president or the White House or anything else goes directly to the White House.
No, of course not. And it probably shouldn't, just for this reason.
No, there's a government mail sorting facility that it goes to where they test it for certain known chemicals that can be aerosolized, like ricin, like anthrax. Anything that can be a bioweapon, that can be inhaled essentially like that. Because, I mean, you get an envelope full of powder, and we've seen that. What did we see? It was Donald Trump's first wife, or Junior's first wife, rather, that got the envelope full of powdered sugar. But the letter said, "Congratulations, you had ricin."
I can't remember.
Yeah, that was Junior's first wife, because that's why he's nailing Guilfoyle now.
What do you mean?
Donald Trump Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle are dating.
I know that, but I mean, what do you mean that's why?
Well, because his first wife walked out on him because she was getting the death threats in the mail and stuff.
Oh, okay. Nephilium says, I expected a ricin rocket before a letter.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen ricin attempt to be used against this administration either, because remember that there was another letter that was addressed to General Mattis 2 years ago that was found to be laced with ricin.
That's surprising.
Well, with General Mattis and his general level of badassery, because he's one of the few war hawks that I actually like. He was the kind of guy that would open up a letter, look at it, see the ricin, and say, "Hey, ricin, you should have just sent me Ricin Krispy treats."
He probably would have.
he probably would have eaten them too.
You're like, welp, I'm gonna die anyway. Fuck it.
So, and they caught the woman that did this, which they went in record time to go find it. They picked her up at the border. She was trying to cross from Canada into New York. They picked her up right away. She is in custody, waiting to be questioned. Of course, innocent until proven guilty, but they're pretty sure
Is she
that they have her
Canadian
this.
or American?
The name is not released, and the CNN article was not clear on that, so I don't know if she is Canadian or American at this point.
Okay.
We will wait and see if the name comes out about this. So,
But honestly, this is not surprising because
in this political climate, no, not at all.
no. I mean that they've caught her so fast because you can't go anywhere without being on someone's CCTV. So if they know where you mailed it from, they're going to pull every traffic cam, every bank camera, every postal office camera, everything that they can get. And they know where all the mail boxes are in the area, in that zip code, wherever it was mailed from. So they can trace it really, really easily. So I'm actually not that surprised that they found this woman that quickly. Either that or she really did a terrible job of disguising who she was because she thought, oh, I'm an American citizen and I'm in Canada, and so they'll never figure it out. But, I mean...
That sounds like a plot to a Scooby-Doo episode.
Right. It's like this person sounds totally ignorant of how pervasive the surveillance state actually is. Or there's a potential she was put up to it by someone else.
And the other thing to keep in mind, too, and I guess I am kind of backtracking on myself for saying that I'm surprised that this happened so quick, is there is no Fourth Amendment in Canada.
Interesting.
So,
But
unlawful
she'll
search
only-
and seizure, go right ahead.
Yeah, but she won't get extradited if she's an American citizen.
Oh, and I'm curious about that, too, because they caught her at the border. So I don't know which direction they're going to take it.
I don't know. That's a tough one because I don't know exactly how that works. So if she was an American citizen trying to cross back into America and they figured it out before she crossed the border, I would have thought common sense. But of course, law enforcement doesn't always operate on that spectrum. Common sense would be like, well, she's yours anyway. You're just going to, I'm going to save you the paperwork and walk her across the border and hand her to you and say that she was caught on American soil so that you can have jurisdiction, because otherwise the RCMP has to take her into custody, and then we have to file an extradition order, and then we have to get her back, or we have to interrogate her there, which requires other things and all that kind of bullshit. So, I mean, that's kind of how I see it, is if she was an American citizen, they would have just said, okay, you American cop, come here. You put the cuffs on her. All right, now I'm going to walk her across the border, and we're just going to say that you arrested her 10 feet away over there in America instead of over here, because that would save you paperwork and save me paperwork.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, they're cooperative to each other too, so that's another part of this. But yeah, I mean, extradition
Plus,
doesn't
don't
have to
we-
happen at that point.
Plus, don't we have a closed border with Canada right now because of COVID?
Yes, that is true. I forgot
Okay.
about that.
Yeah, we do. So I'm sure that they were like really suspicious because they were like, why are you trying to cross the border, lady? It's been closed for months.
I think that there's more to the closed border thing than just COVID, to be completely honest. Because Trudeau's got it set to end in November, which what else happens in November? I think there's more politics to go along than just what happened there. But no, yeah, you are absolutely correct. You can't go into Canada, which strengthens the idea that this is either a former renounced American citizen in Canada or a Canadian doing
I mean,
this.
she would have had to have been there for months at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Or she would have had to have snuck over the border to begin with,
So
which you can do in certain places.
yeah, that you can do.
It's not like we have a wall or anything.
No, that was what Scott Walker wanted to do when he was president. You remember that Meet the Press line that single-handedly ended the man's career politically?
No.
I think we should go further. I think we should have a wall with Canada.
Okay. Good luck maintaining that. Good luck maintaining that northern stretch at all.
Plus, you can't out-Trump Trump.
I mean, I don't even want to see anybody try. That would just be terrifying.
A lot of people did in the 2016 election. A lot of people did.
Which is why it was terrifying.
Yeah. Speaking of states in the north here, it appears that another autonomous zone has cropped up, and the city officials in Minneapolis are doing everything that they can to try and deny that it happened. From KSTP 5, police say autonomous zone blocked emergency response to brutal assault. Citizens group disagrees. So there's a barricaded zone. It's a 1 block radius rather, from the intersection of Chicago Avenue South and East 38th Street, flanked on the north and south by 37th and 39th Streets, and on the east and west by Elliott and Columbus Avenue. So it's a tiny area, but it is in George Floyd Square, and it's right where George Floyd's arrest happened. They've got barricades up. The picture shows some barricades up there that say "Unite in Love." But the interesting part of the article, well, first off, there was an altercation. A woman needed help in the altercation, and both sides are saying opposite things. The police are saying that they couldn't get in because they had it barricaded off, and the people in the autonomous zone and the city council on relations are both saying, "Oh no, we just let them in right away." But the interesting part of this article that I found is way at the end. A city spokesman did issue a statement that said, in part, there is no autonomous zone in the area of 38th and Chicago Avenue or anywhere else in the city of Minneapolis. Laws and enforcement responsibilities have not changed for any part of that city. So I don't know if you've seen anything of this one. I know that you had said that you hadn't had a chance to glance at this, and I just finished it like this morning. But did you see anything on the autonomous zone in Minneapolis?
No, I haven't seen anything on it yet.
Yeah, they're trying to put an autonomous zone in there, and people are trying to deny it. And I think a big part of this is because it's going to be terrible for the polls for Biden.
It's terrible for the polls for Biden. And something that is not on our news list today, the DOJ. Do you remember the briefing or the memo that Trump published and asked the DOJ to look into declaring certain cities where the looting and rioting had been really bad, declaring them anarchist something or other, anarchist disruptions or something like that, or anarchist zones?
I very vaguely remember that.
Well, they came out with their report today, and they listed Portland, Seattle, and New York City. And basically, this was his basis of denying those cities federal money.
Okay, I hadn't heard the title of it, but yes, I remember they were floating that last week. They were talking about...
And Cuomo said he was going to challenge it. Well, now it's like official that the government is going to deny all three of those cities any federal money because they're considered like anarchy zones or something like that.
Well, yes, and I remember that was a couple weeks ago because Ted Wheeler sent the letter back that basically gave Trump the finger.
Yeah. So if there is an autonomous zone in Minnesota or it's in Milwaukee, then Milwaukee wouldn't want the government to find out about it because they'd be like, no, because like I think in New York it's like $7 billion of their city budget is made up of this money that they get from the feds. So if that money gets pulled from their budget, they are in deep shit. Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same for Seattle and Portland, that their city budgets are probably made up of a lot of federal money as well. So if federal money's on the line, I can see why they wouldn't want it to get out.
Yeah, I didn't realize that at first, but yeah, that does definitely make sense because I mean, Durkin is in there pissed off about this, and I remember when the letter came out, I was actually interested to hear the defense of Chicago. Because Chicago was on the list too. It was Chicago, Seattle, and New York City. I was interested to at least let them defend themselves on a court and decide whether or not that they deserve to have their funding cut or not. But, I mean, for Portland, Trump said, well, we shut down the rioting in Kenosha, so now if you take our help, we'll just shut it down there too. And Wheeler basically sent the letter back with the middle finger in the air and said, fuck you. We're not going to take your federal troops, but, we'll take your money.
Yeah, so I just pulled up the article on my phone because I emailed it in as a subject for us to talk about today. Not you and I, but for work. And it says the Justice Department. Oh, so Justice Department. No, I was right. DOJ designated New York City, Portland, and Seattle as anarchist jurisdictions under guidelines issued by President Trump earlier in the month. The September 2nd memo directs federal agencies to minimize funding for designated cities. So basically, any city that fit the criteria of a quote unquote anarchist jurisdiction, they were going to minimize funding for. Those 3 cities fit the criteria. Federal grants account for billions of dollars of New York City's annual budget, and the city has threatened to sue over any move to defund it. So that's something that would probably go to the Supreme Court.
At an even split.
So that's another reason to have 9 instead of 8.
Wow. This is
a mess.
This is a mess, and it's not going to get any better before the election. Probably not after.
No, I don't think it's going to get better after the election either. No matter what happens, there's going to be a lot of people big mad.
Yeah. And I've heard some right-wingers who are not exactly bright allege right out the fact that if Biden wins, then they're taken to the streets just the way that these anarchists and leftists did. It's
gonna be a bloodbath. It really is. It's gonna be Kyle Rittenhouse times 100 in cities all over the country, not just 2 or 3, not just 5. It's gonna be in every major city. It's going to be in San Diego, Albuquerque, LA, Austin, Dallas, Orlando. Chicago is going to be terrible. Detroit, Cleveland. Like, it's just going to be everywhere. You're not going to be able to get away from it.
Yeah, and I was talking with the acquisition manager at the firm that I'm thinking of applying to right now. And he was saying the same thing. There is going to be an exodus from places like Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Madison, Chicago.
There already has been one from New York City, but it's the high-end taxpayers that are leaving now.
Well, and middle class people.
If they lose them, and not even high-income earners, but people who are just middle class that have the ability to leave and get out. Like, if you have an essential job, you're a nurse, and you don't want to live in New York City anymore, great. You can be a nurse in 50 states. So take your pick. Like, pick a town, move there, become a nurse. Like, you're still a nurse. You do have to take boards, I think, in certain other states, depending on their occupational licensing. But if you've already gotten your nursing license in one state, it's just a matter of taking the test in another state, I think, and getting your license in that state. Or you can just go to another city in New York. You can just go to Rochester. You can just go, wherever. So if you have a job like that where it's like easily transferable to either another industry or just another provider in another state, then why would you stay?
Well, and even like the office workers, the general office worker, the data transfer specialist, or the investment banker that doesn't have to sit at the teller window or anything else like that. The people who've been telecommuting for the last 6 months at this point don't need to be in the city anymore either.
Nope, they don't.
I know they kind of...
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. It allows people to have more flexibility.
All right. We got to check in with the chat here and see what they're doing.
You do that. I'm going to throw this article that I just read from into the Discord so that we have it.
Okay. I'll probably read it in the morning too, but let's see what we've got here. Where did you leave off?
The rice and rocket launcher.
I'm going to go back just a little bit to see what I've got. Oregano had given us a thumbs up and said Gowdy. And then he says SCFTW, I'm guessing Supreme Court for the win. I'm not sure what's going on with that.
Everybody likes Gowdy. I mean, he's great.
And Oregano says California is going after the ability to discriminate against whites. You also pointed out House first by state, not the House reps. Yep, that's what it's going to be too. It's the state delegation in the House, not necessarily the simple majority in the House, is going to be the next deciding factor for the presidency. And then it goes to the Supreme Court. Ron Helton pointed out the smudged date stamps on the ballots. Harvey says that screaming girl had sound reasoning. Nephilim says the single issue was, where is Aleppo? Where is Aleppo? So many people want to know.
Really?
People who've never been to Aleppo, they still want to know. People who'll never be in Aleppo still want to know where Aleppo is.
I would venture to guess that given that like 80, or not even 80%, it's, what was it? There was an article last week. 2/3 of millennials and Gen X don't know the name of any concentration camps and don't know that 6 million people died in Europe during the Holocaust. I would venture to guess that about 80 to 90% of the population of the United States as a whole did not know where Aleppo was before that day. And I would bet money on it.
I knew where it was. That's all I know. I knew where it was. I've been studying Middle East history for a long time just to find the origins of religion. So I knew where Aleppo was.
That sounds like a pain in the ass.
I enjoy it though. Let's see. Ron Helton says dingback. Watching trains go by says let's guess her profession. I'm saying teacher.
We covered that.
Somebody said something about the popular vote in here. Oh, watching trains go by says I personally don't think Clinton won the popular vote either. I can't post it here, but I approved the night of the election the vote numbers were off by between 25 and 60 million votes.
Are we talking about Clinton or Hillary? Are we talking about Bill or Hillary?
Hillary, I would think.
Okay.
Nephilim Ninja says I expected a rice and rocket before a letter. They really cannot out catching her. That was a reach, Nephilim. That was a reach.
That was a fail. I'm sorry.
Let's see. Watching trains go by is going to leave the 2016 voter discrepancy in the comments after. Actually, let's get him in the Discord so he can put that in. Oh, Oregano's from South Carolina, so it's not Supreme Court for the win. It's South Carolina for the win.
Oh, okay.
Watching trains go by says...
I'm spending some time there this election season.
Yes, that you are. If I can type, that command would actually work. There we go. So that'll put the link for the Discord up. So watching trains go by, if you want to get in the Discord and you can post stuff like that, I've got a special channel just for that. So come and hang out with us. It's a mistake to take to the streets after election unless the left steps up violence. If states don't do their job, maybe no choice. Any increase in insanity would leap from crime to civil war anyway. Yeah, I don't want to go all full Tim Pool on that, but I think we're getting there. Maybe I'll start throwing on the beanie hat and talking really fast.
Everybody should have a bug-in plan, not a bug-out plan, because there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get anywhere.
I'm preparing a bug-out bag this week. I was just talking about that.
Bug in, not bug out.
As close as I am to Milwaukee.
If they're blocking streets, it's not going to happen.
I've got 4x4. I'm not worried about that. But as close as I am to Milwaukee and Madison right now, no, I've got a place that I can go in northern Wisconsin, way out in the sticks. I'm not hanging out here. For it. I can tell you that. If it gets to that point. All right. Let's watch this video that Massey did. I'm only going to take about the first 3 minutes of it. But Congressman Massey this week introduced an amendment to the Postal Service bill to double the fines to anybody who is caught doing any sort of mail forgery, and to include all postmasters into the same rules as the postmaster generals, potentially to try and limit fraud during the mail-in election. And it was shot down unanimously by Democrats. So let's hear what Thomas Massey had to, or what they had to say about Thomas Massey, and then his reaction, and then them shooting it down. So let's have a listen to that. There's the play button.
The clerk will report.
Amendment to H.R. 8109, offered by Mr. Massey of Kentucky.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with. The gentleman is recognized to explain his amendment.
It won't take very long to explain this amendment. It's very simple. You could say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if we want political reform let's see how far the Democrats are willing to go in this direction. This very simple amendment adds all postmasters to the Hatch Act restrictions in the bill. If Democrats are willing to support a nonpartisan Postmaster General Act, then I would hope they would have no objections to a nonpartisan Postmaster Act. So this basically broadens the scope of the bill to include all postmasters, not just the Postmaster General. Currently, postmasters may not engage in political activities between the hours of 9 and 5. The amendment adds them, just like it does the Postmaster General and the Deputy Postmaster General, to the further restricted employees category of the Hatch Act. And so with that, I would yield back.
Could I ask a question, my friend?
Yes, Mr. Powell.
How many postmasters are there?
There are quite a few. In fact, it's going to be almost impossible to monitor their political activity, which is why, I mean, it's easy to monitor the activity of one Postmaster General, but when you have thousands, it would be very difficult. So that's why I think it's important.
So I just hope that the committee will support Mr. Massey's amendment.
Will the gentleman yield?
I yield to Mr. Massey.
So in the state of Kentucky and many other states, a lot of the precincts have pretty much been dissolved. When you went to vote in a precinct, there were precinct workers. And in Kentucky, they went to great pains to make sure there were 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans in every precinct, that it wouldn't be lopsided. Well, guess what? The precincts are gone, the voting booths are gone, and the new precincts are the post offices. Your precinct is your post office. That is where you bring your ballot. And in the absence of 2 citizens of both parties or multiple parties being there to monitor that, I think we need to take great care that the postmasters of these new precincts, they are the new poll workers, the postmaster. I think we need to take great care and elevate them to the same Hatch Act standards that the Democrats seek to elevate for the Postmaster General and the Deputy Postmaster General. And I yield back to the gentleman from Kentucky.
That's an excellent point by my friend and colleague, Mr. Massey, and I yield back.
Amendment to H.R. 8109, offered by Mr. Massey of Kentucky.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized to explain.
So the video that they put up on Twitter just went through and repeated in loop. So the amendment basically expanded the Hatch Act to Postmaster Generals, which in a full mail-in election type vote, I would think that would be instrumental, and I actually am a little bit surprised that they haven't done this already. But it also, as I mentioned before, and he didn't get to in the video that was in this, doubled the fines for forging election material. And it was unanimously by Democrats denied.
Interesting.
So,
what was their main argument against it?
It did not specify, and I was not able to find any documentation from a mainstream news outlet about this either.
I
Because I
bet it's
tried
on
to do that this
C-SPAN.
morning. What's that?
I bet it's on C-SPAN.
It could be. I didn't.
All
I googled it
all
this
those
morning.
boring oral arguments are always on C-SPAN.
Yeah, that they are.
So this to me makes a lot of sense, actually. The only way I could see not doing it, and we wouldn't, and that's not possible right now because we don't have enough time, because early voting in some states has already started. So the only way I could see this being possible of not including all the postmasters into this is if you employ poll workers, a poll worker at the post office, or like he said, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, because he's right. Those are your precinct workers now. And they're not trained as a precinct worker. They're only trained as a postman or postwoman. Or I guess postmaster is the term. So they're only trained as postmasters. They're not trained as precinct workers.
Well, the postmaster is the person that's in charge of the post office. So then any of the postal workers, the postmen and the postwomen, are the people underneath him.
Right. But he's saying he wants to extend that to all postmasters.
Yeah.
So that That's not postmaster general, that's postmaster at the local level. So the only way I could see this working is if you hired specific precinct workers that only dealt with elections, but were also trained as a postal worker.
Right.
But they didn't perform the same job functions. They only performed job functions that went along with voting. So what that would look like on a everyday, you're going to go turn in your ballot, what would that look like? It would look like you get in a special separate line, and there's a separate counter in your post office, and you go to that counter and you hand in your ballot. And that person might take down your name and verify that it's you. If you have voter ID in your state, they might check your ID and then verify that your ID matches the envelope, like the return address on the envelope or something like that. Or maybe you bring your paper ballot and the envelope in, and you fill your ballot out and you stick it in there. Like you go into a little voting booth, you vote there, stick it in an envelope, take it to the counter, to the postmaster, that is the precinct worker, that is the dedicated precinct worker for voting. And then you fill out the envelope, and then you stick it in the mail. So it's like they've basically seen you vote. They've checked off your name on their voter roll, like you do when you walk into a polling station.
Yeah.
You have to walk by the table and give them your name. Some states you have to show your ID. And then you go vote, and then you walk back out. So that's the way I see it working if we had more time to plan this out, because he is right. Those are precinct workers now, and they're not trained to be precinct workers. It stands to reason that they would go through some kind of training, like sometime in the last month, that they would have gone ahead and gone through some kind of training. But it's the government, so I mean, maybe not.
The government sucks at everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's nothing to hide, and they're not planning on doing anything wrong, especially given the fact, what's that?
Careful.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, if there's nothing to hide, they're not planning on doing anything wrong. Why wouldn't they want to put the extra protections in? I don't understand what the opposition is to this.
Maybe they just think it's an impossible task, especially this close.
Yeah, enforcement would be difficult on that. Massey was absolutely right on that. But
yeah, it would be.
I mean, the other side of it is I don't want to vote by mail, not necessarily because I don't trust the system of the mail service. I mean, I've seen the mail sorting machines go. I've seen how much mail and volume goes through that. The mechanical systems of the post office, I trust. That we've been doing it for 200 years in this country, even longer at this point. I think we've been doing it since longer than we've been a country. We've had a post office. But the Postal Workers Union has endorsed Biden. And I don't want to hand my ballot to somebody whose union leader has endorsed Biden and is pretty much telling him to do the same.
Right. Which is why I say you need to have a precinct worker that's trained as a postman, that works at the post office, that is separate from the postal counter where you want to ship your package to your grandma that's got cookies in it, or mail your Christmas cards or whatever. Like, it's a completely separate thing. And maybe we only use it for elections, like all elections. If a state wanted to do their local elections that way, they could, or their statewide elections that are in an off year, midterm elections, whatever. So it may not be something that's always there or always available. I could see that working. I could see that. I would trust that kind of a system more than I would trust, just like you said, giving it to someone who's part of a union that's endorsed another candidate.
And I mean, even still, I'm at a point, we don't have pre-registered voting in Wisconsin, so it's open ballot all the way across. But even still, as a person who's not putting anything on the top of the ticket right now, I don't want to leave the presidential line blank and then hand it to a postal worker, because I'll suddenly mysteriously vote for Biden.
Yep.
And
I don't have any more comments. I'm going to lobby to move our next item on the list to next week.
The North Korea one?
Yep.
Okay.
And just cover TikTok and Paul Rudd.
Yeah, that's all. That's a little bit timeless too, actually. So, because that's been happening since 1999. So, yeah, we could probably take our time on that one, and we'll have a week to see what the markets do on that as well. So, the last one then, before I get into this cringe-ass video, is that we've been following the TikTok saga from the beginning. And now it appears that there is a sale. So Sunday was supposed to be the last day that you could get TikTok in the App Store or the Google Play Store because they were no longer allowed to. You have it?
I haven't looked
Oh.
to see.
Well, apparently the deal went through last night that Oracle Technology, along with a minor share from Walmart, has purchased the U.S. operations of TikTok. Now, China's not giving up a lot of their algorithms and a lot of everything. This is not a full and complete sale. Oracle has only purchased the distribution rights to the United States. Even still, that's going to be a big chunk of money going out to China. But this is still, for the most part, Chinese owned on all of this. Yahoo Finance says Walmart CEO Doug McMillon is in fact that baseball smasher and arguably his most important deal. And there have been quite a few to speak of since taking over as CEO in February of 2014, is that they took over a part of TikTok. So let me get combined $12 billion was the U.S. share that they purchased this week, which is a butt ton of money.
Yeah.
To buy something from China. But I mean,
Oh,
Walmart's
yeah.
used to that at this point.
It's Walmart. They do what they do.
So, and you had sent the article over when basically they said that no deal could be made. When we were still waiting to see if it could be there on Sunday. And now that, yes, this is going through, it's waiting for Trump's approval, but he's already approved it to stay for distribution in the U.S. But what have you seen on this otherwise?
Well, I'm trying to download TikTok right now
Oh, I'm not.
just to see if I can. It still says installing. Oh, there we go.
I still don't understand TikTok. Yeah, all I see is a white screen when you do that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's because it's really bright. Sign up with TikTok. So yeah, as of right now, you can still get TikTok on the App Store, and that was Android. So that's Google. Yeah, I don't know. It's they've literally already admitted it's a government spying app,
Yeah.
which most apps are to a certain degree. But what do you learn? What do you learn from having TikTok and using it as a spying app? That we all fall for the dance crazes? Maybe? I don't know. I guess it could be used to track your location, much in the same way other apps do. So I honestly don't know how it could be any worse than Facebook. That's I guess what my question still is. How is this worse than Facebook?
Well, yeah, I mean, because
everybody and their mom has Facebook on their phone, and they've had it on their phone usually for years. So, I mean, there's nothing stopping them from doing it. So what does it make a difference if TikTok does it? Like, you've already got 10 other apps on your phone that do it.
Well, one of the arguments was as well that Zuckerberg is selling the information to China for them to come out and come back and advertise to you in targeted fashion.
Right. So they're just skipping the middleman. TikTok just skipped the middleman. They didn't want to deal with Zuck, so they made their own app.
Well, and I mean, there were arguments that the TikTok app could turn on your microphone, it could spy on you everywhere, but I mean, so can Alexa.
So can Siri.
That one too.
Yeah, I mean, we just both said the same thing, essentially. We just picked different providers. But yeah, I mean, Apple and Google do the exact same thing. So again, how is it worse?
Now, with this too, I could understand, especially with Trump being the commander-in-chief, if, I mean, there was a restriction that nobody in a military family could use the TikTok app or anything because of classified information or any security that would possibly come out from having the microphone on in home and going over to China right there. But for the most part, and this is the same thing I've been saying since the coronavirus pandemic and lockdowns came off of this, this is the same thing I've been saying with what the government's saying that you can and cannot purchase certain things, that they want to put tariffs on things. You provide your own risk level assessment. And when the government starts assessing your risk level for you, that's where we start getting too far from the government. The government doesn't have to tell me what to do to try and keep myself from getting a disease. I can decide whether I'm sick or healthy enough or not to go to the grocery store. And I can decide what software I want on my phone.
And the grocery store can decide whether or not it wants you to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like it, you get to shop somewhere else.
Well, in Wisconsin, we really don't have that. We really don't have that freedom, even though here in Rock County we still do. Because if I want to go to like the big grocery store, I have to wear the mask because it's the only place to get stuff. But I do most of my shopping at the local butcher shop because they don't care.
Well, that's good. All right, cringe video time. Let's do it. I've been eagerly awaiting.
So, going back to the coronavirus that nobody's going to remember next week, Paul Rudd on Thursday put a video out because Andrew Cuomo asked him to do it, urging people to wear the mask. And it looked and sounded like this.
Yo, what up, Dogs? Paul Rudd here, actor and certified young person. A few days ago, I was talking on the iPhone with my homie Governor Cuomo, and he's just going off about how us millennials need to wear masks because, get this, apparently a lot of COVID is transmitted by us millennials. No cap. So Cuomo's asked me, he's like, Paul, you gotta help. What are you, like 26? And I didn't correct him. So fam, that's real talk. Masks? They're totally beast. So slide that into your DMs and twitch it. Vibe check. Yes, queens like ourselves. We want to go to bars, we want to drink, hook up, do our TikToks. I get it. I'm not going to preach at you like some celebrity. Ugh. This is a combo where I talk and you shut up and wear your mask. Hello? Oh, hi, Billie Eilish. What's that? You're wearing your mask? Man, I want to stan you. You're so my bae. Yo, listen, hype beasts. Masks protect you and your dank squad. Because caring about other people is the new not caring about other people. Now that's thick. Masks. You want a challenge? How about a stop the pandemic challenge? What about that? What about a save grandma challenge? That fun enough for you? My name is Paul, and I'm 6 feet tall almost. And I wear my mask, and it's all I ask that you wear your mask. Please wear your mask. Just wear a mask. Just wear a mask. It's easy. It's simple. Please. It's not hard. People are dying. Hundreds of thousands of people are dying, and it's preventable. It's preventable. Just wear a mask. I shouldn't have to make it fun. It's science. It's science. No! Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Look at us. Who would have thought wearing masks would be a problem?
Not me. We gotta yeet this virus. Oi.
It just kept getting worse.
I'm surprised he didn't throw an okr in there. Or did he? Oh my god. So, Paul Rudd is not a millennial. Paul Rudd is 51 years old. He's
Holy shit,
Gen
I
X.
didn't know that.
Yeah, because he looks exactly the same. The man does not age. But that's what the joke was. Like, you know, well, Como thought I was 26 years old, and I didn't correct him. That was amazing.
Well, that just makes that whole commercial worse because he's saying that, and I don't even know what Stan is, but it's like, hey, Billie Eilish, I want to stan you. And what is she, like, 19?
Yeah, she's like, what? Stan means, like, I support this. Or, like, I'm down with this. At least that's what I think it means. But maybe
I can't help you with that. I'm not even that much older than you.
I'm old, so maybe I don't know what that means, but whatever. I remember the first time someone said Netflix and chill, and I was like, what?
Yeah, my ex had to explain that one to me because I didn't know either.
I didn't either. I was late to the party on Netflix and chill. I had no idea what it meant. But yeah, no, that was hilarious, actually.
Well, and I mean, actually, from some of the PSAs that we saw back when we were kids in the 90s, that actually probably would have gone right on the same idea that a lot of the PSAs that we saw. Until he got serious at the end.
Until he got serious at the very end. But then it wasn't serious at the very, very end.
Yeah, they just threw that last clip in there. of them
It
eating
went back to being
wings.
ridiculous.
And the
That's
best,
funny.
I almost bumped that because I really think that the coronavirus thing is over at this point. With Ginsburg and the riots that are coming out of this, I think people are just going to forget about this. I know Evers is trying to do everything he can to keep the mask mandate in through election day, but other than that, this is the next thing. The idea of coronavirus is waning. It's going away. Nobody wants to think about it, deal with it anymore. The numbers of cases are going up. The deaths are going down. But Paul Rudd had to get out there and make his little PSA off of this. And
Yeah.
make us all feel a little bit old.
I thought it was funny. Maybe I will think it. So I can't see it. I can only hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it will be more cringy to me if I actually watch it. But that
Or it will
just
be
sounded
100 times
hilarious.
more cringy.
That just sounded hilarious.
So, that's a show. That's what I got here. That's
That's
everything.
a show. We finished on time. It is 8:29.
All right, let's see what the live chat has to say here. I threw the Discord up in there for watching trains go by, so hopefully he'll come up and join that. He says he doesn't have a camera though, so I don't have. Do I have any video channels in there? I know I've got 2 voice
I don't
channels.
think you do.
It wouldn't take text over 2,000 characters, so I had to upload it as a file. Oh, so I'm guessing he is in there.
Okay.
Does anybody know what happened to Rocket Man yet?
Oh, in North Korea, whether he's dead or alive, I think he's alive. I don't know. Until the next rumor goes around that he's dead.
Maybe he'll behead his sister for fun.
She must have dirt on him. Otherwise, I feel like she'd be dead already.
Harvey McLeod says he looks just like he did in Clueless, but unfortunately that's a movie and I've never seen that. Watching Trains Go By says, is he trolling them?
It really sounded like he was.
Yeah. And Watching Trains Go By will get the last word and says, I love the bike pant leg. Nice touch.
That's one thing I did not see because I was just listening.
You will. I will screen share it and show that to you after
You
we're
gotta
off air
watch.
here.
You gotta watch a movie.
I will have to watch a
That's
movie.
the deal.
I will watch a movie.
A whole movie.
A whole movie. I'm not gonna lie, I watched Mulan the other night though. Not the new one, the old one.
Mulan's a great movie.
I know, I love
It's
that
one of
movie.
It's one of my son's favorite Disney movies. I think because she has a sword and a horse.
I watched it in theaters. All right, I think we're going to run through Sell the Wares and get on out of here. So, thanks everybody who came by and checked us out, kept us honest with everything, threw some suggestions up in there, and enjoyed the cringe with us. If you are just catching up with us now and you want to come back and check out the rest of the show, you can find us back on demand over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com. And if you're over on YouTube or over on BitChute.com, consider leaving a thumbs up so YouTube knows what people should be watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're not there already, so that way you get alerted to every time a new video uploads, and come and hang out with us again. If you'd rather take us on the go, you can find us over on the audio platforms. We are on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. So come over there and check us out in any of those. Subscribe on all the audio platforms. And if you're over on iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a good review. That helps us move up the charts. It helps us overcome Apple's algorithm and helps us get the message out to more people. Lastly, you can find our content along with my morning show and the shows of the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the Generational Gap, the R-Rated Conservative, and the Freckles and Brit Show over on freedomscoop.com. It's going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, so come on over and check us out over there, hang out with us, pick up some swag, and help us support great creators. Lastly, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Elaine, send them out of here for the week.
Have a good week. Stay safe.
Take care.